Hello, 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 everybody. I am Congresswoman Nakima Williams, y'all, and I proudly represent Georgia's fighting 5th Congressional District, where we continue to fight for our freedoms and we fight for what is right, y'all. And that's why tonight you won't find me on your television screen sitting in the House chamber because I won't be there. I won't be sitting there listening to Donald Trump's lies because, y'all, these are not normal times and this is not business as usual. So, tonight, if you're joining in, it's not quite a watch party, y'all. This is the reality check. Because while the president delivers a speech inside the chamber, the people deserve space to process what it actually means outside of it. In our kitchens, in our classrooms, in our small businesses, in our communities, in our homes, and our real lives as the American people. Tonight, we're creating space for community conversation. We're fact checking in real time, and we're answering your questions while centering real stories. Now, on the TV, you're going to hear big promises. We've all heard them over and over and over. You're also going to hear some big applause lines, and you're probably going to hear some big old fat lies. So, here we're going to ask, what does this mean for real people? How far did I? What are we? All right, y'all. I think maybe we had some technical difficulties. Maybe somebody doesn't want to hear the truth and hear what we actually need to be talking about this evening, but I'm back. I'm back because we have guests with us this evening who are here to share their stories. I have guests that I represent in the United States Congress who I want you to hear from because these are people who have been impacted by the Trump administration. Tonight we are here to make sure that we don't just watch the State of the Union, but we fact check the State of the Union. Because as the president delivers a speech inside the chamber, the people deserve space to process what it actually means outside of it, in our kitchens, in our classrooms, our small businesses, our communities, in our homes, y'all. So tonight we're creating space for community conversation. We're fact checking in real time. We're answering your questions and we're centering real stories. Now on the TV, you're going to hear big promises. You might hear big applause lines. You're probably going to hear big lies. So here we're going to ask, what does this mean for real people? What does this mean for your rent, your health care, your freedom to vote, your small business, your bottom line? That's the reality check. And I want this to be interactive. So drop your questions in the chat right now. Tell us where you're tuning in from. What's at the top of your mind? If you hear something tonight that doesn't sit quite right with you, put it in the chat. We'll talk about it. If something sounds good, but you're wondering how it actually works, put that in the chat too. Because y'all, even a broken clock can be right twice a day. So there might be some things that you hear that you agree with. Drop it in the chat and let's talk about it. So let's get into it. Our first guest is a member of the Fighting Fifth Small Business and Community Council, an advisory council that I launched last year to hear directly from small business owners on the policies that they need to see to keep their businesses thriving. Lisa Adeboye, President and CEO of Alliance Group. Thank you for being here this evening, Lisa. So, Lisa, can you tell us about yourself, your business, and how you've been faring under Trump's policies? Lisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to thank you, Congresswoman Nikema Williams, for this opportunity to share my story. So I'm a small business owner. I've had my business located in Atlanta, Georgia for 15 years. I'm a federal government contractor providing professional services and management consulting. And my government experience has primarily been with the Center for Disease Control. I've been in government contracting for 30 years. And last year, Valentine's Day, which I call Bloody Valentine's Day now, my prime contracts with the Center for Disease Control were terminated for convenience. My employees, I had to let them go. I held on as long as I could, but I had to let employees go. And these were 3 contracts. It has been extremely challenging. And not only am I impacted as an employer, my employees were impacted. All of my customers were impacted. We hoped that things would pick up again and that we would be able to restart relationships and restart contracts. All of the customers, most of them have been terminated as well. And so it has been extremely challenging. Agency leadership, they're afraid to move forward with opportunities with small businesses. And so we try to continue and to go, and we're holding on, but it's extremely challenging.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing your story. And just to dig in a little deeper, how do you think the federal government can support you and other small business owners across the country?
So I think the help will really come from our representation, from our Congress people.
I got you, Lisa.
Seriously, like that is because we find that agencies and the agency decision makers are afraid to move forward. And so and I'm a policy person as well. I'm a member of Women Impacting Public Policy and some other policy groups that support small businesses. And they're policies that we hope that our Congress people will push forward, such as HR 7154, which is the Streamlining Small Business Contract Act of 2026. And that would allow small businesses like mine to receive sole source contracts, but not only receive sole source contracts, but increase the threshold from 5.5 million to 10 million. So policy, I think, is the way that we're going to have to go.
Thank you, Lisa. And as a small business owner, what do you hope President Trump will actually address and speak on during the State of the Union tonight?
I hope that he speaks on his commitment, his administration's commitment to small business, and that commitment followed with action. That's what I hope for.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us. And I hope that you hear some of the things that you need to hear to keep your business growing and thriving.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Now, let's widen the lens just a little bit because, y'all, we know that the president's harmful policies aren't just hitting in one area. For a lot of people and families, it's not just affordability, it's also healthcare, y'all. Y'all, healthcare is a basic human right. Unfortunately, our current president doesn't understand this. Regardless of what you hear tonight, know that the expiration of the ACA premium tax credits could cause about 340,000 more Georgians to become uninsured. So tonight I want to introduce y'all to Teresa Acosta. Teresa is the owner of Renzo's Fire Catering and also a mama of 3 kids. Teresa wrote a powerful op-ed to the AJC that a lot of you might have read last fall. I know that I read it, Teresa, and my heart went out to you. She wrote this about her difficult decision to close her small business in the wake of the billionaire bailout budget that did nothing for regular people. Teresa, tell us about yourself and what led you to this difficult decision.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, I'm honored to be here and thank you for giving us a platform to tell our stories. Um, so, like you said, I'm a mom. I'm a single mom. I have 3 teenagers, 19, 17, and 16. And my youngest was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes just after their 6th birthday. So, 10 years ago, it's been. And it's a very expensive disease. It's, all the supplies that he needs cost a lot of money. And having healthcare to be able to afford those supplies to keep him healthy so he can live a long and happy life is top of my priority list. Um, so back in 2020, I was working in nonprofit. I lost my job due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and I kind of quickly started cooking out of my home for my friends and neighbors that were like going crazy with, trying to educate their kids at home and work from home, and restaurants were closed and it was crazy. And so I just started cooking family meals out of my home and delivering it to neighbors. And I started selling out every week. And then I had companies starting to call me to bring in,
I needed your
for
number,
their special
Teresa.
events. What's that?
I needed your number.
I know. Oh, next time you're in Atlanta, let me know. I'll come by with some Cuban sandwiches. So, um, but it grew into dream business for me. It was something that I was like, well, that I'll never be able to turn that into a business. I'm a single mom. I'm very risk averse, and the really the key that allowed me to keep doing it and to grow it was when President Biden extended the subsidies. I was able to take my kids off of Medicaid, add them to my insurance plan through the ACA. My child's supplies were covered really well. I could afford it, and I was able to continue excellent health care for him through CHOA, which was key for me. Um, and I know that politicians are going to play politics with issues like this, and they're going to try to pit people against each other around healthcare. But I was really hoping that we could be better than that, and that people would work together to solve this problem. And, I know that our representatives in Georgia saw the writing on the wall. They tried to make some changes before the big, beautiful bill passed. Again, when uh, the government closure happened in the fall, again, they really tried hard to bring Republicans to the table and let's make a deal. And that fell through. And then, by December 22nd, so that was 3 days before Christmas, my first premium hit my bank account and left me with $75 before Christmas. Um,
Wow.
it was terrifying. And as a single parent, I have 3 kids relying on me. Um, and I was like, I don't know how we're going to make it to my next paycheck. And anyways, um, over the summer when the big beautiful bill passed, I chose at that point to close my business. and try to find a job that would carry health insurance. Uh, it it was gut-wrenching. I cried, I think, every day for 2 weeks straight. Um, it was nothing that I thought would actually happen. I figured both Republicans and Democrats would want to support small businesses, and so many small businesses rely on the ACA. So that was very disappointing for me. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So, Teresa, just checking in because I know that the January expiration date for the tax credits has come and gone. So, what are you
Hmm.
hearing now from other small business owners now that we're at this point?
Yeah. Back in, I think it was early January, a bill did pass the House, and
That's
it
right.
did go to the Senate,
Democrats
right?
forced a vote.
They did, and they got Republicans to endorse it, to
Three Republicans,
ex
three Republicans
yes,
voted with House Democrats to get a vote, but we have not yet to be able to get the Republicans in the Senate to vote for this.
yes. So it's just sitting in the Senate doing nothing, and I've now paid 3 premiums, and
Wow.
and my premium increased 620% from what it was last year. So what am I hearing? I'm hearing people are um, cutting back on their employees. They're, have told their employees, I'm so sorry, we're not able to afford to cover part of your healthcare plan. You're on your own. They've had to let go of people. They've had to increase their prices. And really, because they're not able to hire the help that they need to run their business, they're doing more of it and not being able to have a balanced life, working 14-hour days to cover for employees that they can no longer afford to pay. um so I see this. Yes, I decided to close early on because I saw the writing on the wall. But if we continue to not address this issue, I see a lot of small businesses being affected and having to close their doors.
So, Teresa, as I sit here in my office on Capitol Hill, I am watching what is happening on the House floor, and I see President Donald Trump. He just entered the House chamber.
Mm.
And if you could talk to him right now, and what would you ask him to address to the American people when he takes that podium in just a few minutes? What would you hope he would say to the
Sure.
American people?
Well, there's a lot. But I would, first of all, I would love to hear him speak truth instead of speaking in lies and superlatives and calling things like affordability a hoax, when for millions of us, affordability is not a hoax. It's very real. And every time we go to the grocery store, we feel it. And, I mean, just walking through the grocery store, I look at items and I'm like, do I really need this? I'm going to put it back on the shelf because I'm not going to buy that this time. I mean, making decisions about what to put on the table, what bills to pay, what can I maybe wait on, those kinds of issues. I would love to hear him address with honesty. Um, and um, I would like to know also, because healthcare affects me. I would love to hear him talk about a plan, not a concept of a plan. And the tariffs also affected my business greatly. It was a huge issue. So I would like to know what's going to happen with all that tariff money. And what about the big corporations that increased prices for all of us?
That's right.
Are they getting that money back? Are we going to see any of it? Are the prices going to come down now that they've been ruled illegal? I, I doubt it, but I'd like to hear him address that. Um, and as the daughter of immigrants, I would love to hear him say that he is no longer going to terrify our immigrant brothers and sisters, that he's not going to imprison pregnant women and babies. Um, and he's going to, address the brutality that we saw in Minnesota and across the country. Um, I don't think he'll say any of those things, but I would love to hear it.
Well, thank you so much, Teresa, for joining us. And I can tell you, if you don't hear it from your president, your congresswoman is your voice here in Washington. And I will continue to use my voice to speak up for you every single day. Thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you so much.
Now, if you're tuning in tonight, keep the questions coming. You might be watching at home and you see that President Trump is walking up to the rostrum right now. If you're tuning in, keep the questions coming, because if you're hearing themes that concern you, we want to hear about them. Drop them in the chat, y'all. We're tracking it. And remember, we're here for the reality check. We're going to bring you the truth when you might not get it from the President of the United States. All right, y'all. So our next guest tonight is reminding us how much it means to the next generation, because every decision that we make, everything that we do right now is impacting their future. Y'all, our young people are watching what is happening and they're ready to take action. Just a few weeks ago, I was so inspired by students at Tri-Cities High School. I got a text message from Kaylee Arnold. Kaylee is a member of Generation Good Trouble, a youth advocacy group that is a part of my congressional office. And Kaylee is also the student government president. And Kaylee texted me and said that they were organizing a walkout at their school in response to ICE brutality. And they wanted to know if I would come and join them. And I pulled up, y'all, to Tri-Cities High School. So tonight, I want to introduce you to another young leader in the Fighting Fifth, Zelda Lerner. Zelda is a senior at Midtown High School and a member of Generation Good Trouble. Generation Good Trouble, again, is a youth advisory council in my congressional office. Zelda is deeply committed to civic engagement and public service already, y'all. Zelda, tell us what called you to want to be a part of Generation Good Trouble.
Well, Generation Good Trouble, when I heard of it, it was just such a unique opportunity to really get involved in civic engagement within my community and within the 5th District. I'm a senior. I joined the inaugural class when I was a junior, when I was 16. So I have, at the time, 2 years, 1 year now, before I even have the chance to vote. But I think civic engagement at such an early age is so important for a foundation of building important skills and advocacy that's necessary to make change later on.
Zelda, I am so grateful that you joined us. You told me early on that you were a little nervous. I don't know why you're nervous. You did a great job. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you. And I hope some people are tuning in from Midtown High School tonight to cheer you on. Zelda, just a couple of questions. What brings you hope for the future of our country in spite of all of the challenges that you and your friends are facing right now? What brings you hope?
What brings me hope is just we've seen it in some of the elections since President Trump was elected, kind of the shift. We saw last year, I think it was like a 21% of all GOP held seats that were on the ballot flipped. And we saw this in Virginia, New Jersey, and places like New York. But we also saw that here in Georgia. An example in the statewide Public Service Commission election, where these positions were able to shift parties. And I really think that indicates like a positive momentum for upcoming midterms. And additionally, I think it's impossible not to be hopeful when I focus on the spirit and drive of America's people, and especially young people like myself. I know we want to change, and I know we will do everything we can to make it change.
Thank you so much, Zelda. And one last question before we start to listen to some of the words from President Trump. What do you want leaders like President Trump and like me to know?
So my peers and myself, we are paying attention. We're paying attention to the policies being enacted, and we're paying attention to the inaction, paying attention to what politicians are saying and what they're not, and how they are saying it. And we're going to hold politicians accountable for their promises. And we're
That's
just
right.
super excited when we turn 18 to cast our votes in the next election and help usher in a different day of American politics.
So, Zelda, that brings me hope. It brings me hope that you can't even vote yet, but yet you are so engaged and you are already a part of making the system better for all of us. So thank you for being here with us this evening, and thank you for everything that you do and everything that I know you're gonna do. So I am fortunate to have you a part of Generation Good Trouble, representing the Fighting Fifth Congressional District. Zelda, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, y'all remember, this is your space. If you have questions about what you're hearing tonight, drop them in the chat. If you want to share your reality check, what is happening in your life, how the Trump administration is impacting you, drop that in the chat too. We also have another special guest that just joined us this evening. We have the chairwoman from Clayton County Commissioner. Come on over. She just joined us, y'all. Remember, I told you earlier that NACO was in town, and we had some people that were not quite part of the Fighting Fifth. We had Liberty County and Chatham County, but y'all, we have our chairwoman from the Clayton County Board of Commissioners joining us this evening for the reality check, because local governments have been impacted, y'all. And so we are all in this together at every level of government, from the federal, municipal, county level, and state level. Chairwoman, would you like to say a few words to our audience this evening?
I just want to say hello from Clayton County, where the world lands and opportunities take off. I want to thank you, Ms. Congresswoman Nikema Williams from the Fighting Fifth. I put the fighting, right. The Fighting Fifth. I'm say the might and the mighty and the Fighting Fifth. Thank you for having me here in the office. You know, we've been impacted so much on the local level. We get the grunt of everything when it deals with housing, when it's dealing with SNAP benefits, and when we're looking at workforce development for the people of our county. So please know that on the local level, we're fighting, we're coming up here working. When we talk about my 3 C's, communication, collaboration, and consistency, we are communicating, we're collaborating with our Congresswoman, Nikema Williams, so we can make sure that we take care of the people on the ground, so we can better the quality of life and move Clayton, and we just move our region forward. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's great to see all of you all. And we're going to I'm going to keep fighting with the Fighting Fifth and make sure that we do everything that we have to do to move Clayton forward. Thank you.
We are fighting for y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, keep those questions coming. Tune in. Let us know what concerns you have, what questions you have, and we will continue to do the fact checking throughout the evening. Stay engaged, y'all. I know that we've already heard that the state of our union is strong, which is hard to say when we're literally in the midst of a partial government shutdown right now. So yeah. You're going to hear a lot about a strong economy. But y'all, the reality check on the economy is an economy isn't strong if working families are still choosing between groceries and rent. So now we're talking about the housing crisis, y'all, which is a fact. There is a housing crisis, but I just knew that he was not going to be able to get through any point without mentioning President Joe Biden.
Hey, for everyone tuned in right now, thanks for tuning in. We will continue to take your questions. Want to put one on the chat briefly, and the Congresswoman may come back and talk about this as well. But Angel, you asked if TSA PreCheck or Clear at Hartsfield was impacted by the government shutdown now. Y'all, the TSA PreCheck and Clear never shut down at all.
And they never received guidance.
They never received guidance about it. The Congresswoman is going to come back and tell y'all more about it because she's been in the airports coming back to DC. But TSA PreCheck and Clear was not shut down. You can travel with confidence and know that this is just another example of the chaos coming from the Trump administration. And let's bring the Congresswoman on the chat now.
Hey y'all, Amber is exactly right. I flew out of the airport on Sunday and it was supposed to go into effect 6 a.m. Sunday morning. And so I was waiting to see extended lines and how this was being impacted, how this would impact travelers on an already busy travel weekend with the weather that we thought was coming through the DC area. But talking with the TSA workers, they never even received guidance from DHS, from Christy Noam or anyone that they were even supposed to be shutting anything down, and it was business as usual. So again, just another way that this administration is creating chaos in our country. But yeah, TSA was never shut down over the weekend. No guidance was given, and keep flying, y'all.
And that is the promise we must keep to America for our 250th year. Last year, I urged this Congress.
Hey, y'all, if you're tuned in watching the State of the Union, make sure you drop your questions. What are you hearing tonight? How is this resonating with you? What are you hoping to hear from the President of the United States tonight as he addresses the nation on the State of our Union? Let us know what you're hearing. Okay, y'all. I'm tuning back in. I got to tap back in on this one because this is my blood is boiling over here. But you're hearing him talk about these tax cuts. But what he's not telling you is that the tax cuts were for billionaires. And I've heard from some billionaires from across the country who don't have a problem with paying their fair share. But you know what it did? It made it so that families like Teresa's, a small business owner right at home in the Fighting Fifth, had to shut down her small business because these same tax cuts for billionaires in that same bill, it rolled back the tax credits for the ACA premiums. So hardworking families like Teresa's, who were getting subsidies just to make sure that her three children could have health care and she could keep her small business open, those were the people that were harmed so that Donald Trump could give tax cuts to billionaires. That's what we're facing here in this nation under this president and his lack of leadership. Okay, y'all, tapping back in because I'm hearing him talk about these Trump accounts for kids. And let me tell you how it actually works. Because as a mother of a 10-year-old, I logged on. I was like, let me see if this is legit. What is he really doing? Because, Carter, it would be good for him to be investing and having some money that could grow. But guess what? If your child was not born during the Trump administration, they're not eligible. What kind of scam is this? But he doesn't tell you that. So if you log in and check the birth dates, they have to have been born in 2025 through the end of his term. Those are the only children that are eligible for these Trump accounts. So I thought maybe he would say like everybody under the age of 5. And so Carter would have been excluded. And that would have been cool because at least it would have been like a set guideline. But this president decided that only those children born during his administration are eligible. Now he's talking about Nobel Prize winners because, y'all, this really keeps him up at night that he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. And let me assure you that even if someone hands you a Peace Prize, does not make you a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Is that almost all countries and corporations want to keep the deal that they already made, right, Scott? Right. Knowing that the legal power that I, as president, have to make a new deal could be far worse for them, and therefore they
Hey, y'all, if you're tuning in, welcome back. Welcome back. We are watching. Just so you know, you might have heard Donald Trump talking about housing and eliminating uh, Wall Street from the housing market. Guess who carried that legislation? Our Congresswoman, Congresswoman Nikema Williams. And we were talking about it earlier today to take hedge funds out of the housing market. So, know that the things that Trump is doing, she said broken clock is right twice a day. This might be one of those times that just happened to be today. But you should know that Congresswoman Nikema Williams is fighting to make sure that she is fixing the affordable housing crisis. We know that the presence of Wall Street in the housing market is driving up costs, making it very difficult to purchase a home. If you are watching and you have experiences, drop your experiences in the chat because we want to make sure that you are heard. Remember, you've tuned into the reality check.
Hey, y'all. He's still rambling. He's still lying. I don't know if y'all are still watching. I don't blame you if you've already tapped out, but I'm tapping back in because I knew at some point he was going to come for elections. And it does not matter what issue you care about in this country. If we cannot have fair and free elections free of Donald Trump's interference, then no other issue is going to matter. I knew when they zoomed in on Tulsi Gabbard, who brought herself down to Fulton County for this FBI raid, that we still haven't gotten, like, what were they looking for? They're looking for ballots. They're looking for those 11,787 votes that Trump failed to get in the 2020 election. And they're looking at how do they move forward so they can continue to steal our elections. So pay attention, y'all. Pay attention to what is happening in our country. Pay attention to what is coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. Because what I know is that he'll say things and people will laugh it off and they'll act like, oh, he just said that. He doesn't really mean it. But then he has other people that will come up with the policies that will actually enact these things that harm the American people, that harm our elections process. I led a letter to the DOJ calling out Trump for his election intimidation and interference. The 2020 election has been litigated over 60 times. This is about voter intimidation, y'all, and we won't stand for it. We will not allow him to invoke fear to keep us from showing up to vote. Voter fraud is very, very rare. In fact, I don't know if y'all are paying attention, but the most recent voter fraud that was found, y'all ready? The most recent voter fraud that we found in Georgia was actually a super PAC linked to Elon Musk. Elon Musk had an affiliated super PAC that attempted to send thousands of pre-filled out Republican absentee ballot applications, violating a law that the Republicans put in place. Make it make sense. So that is where we are, y'all. This is all a distraction. First, he wanted to keep your eyes off of what was happening in Minnesota. And then he is looking towards 2026 on how he can rig the election by intimidating voters to stay home. Do not be fooled, y'all. We got to show up, and we got to show up in force. Donald Trump has already told us he does not want to lose the midterms because he will be what? Impeached. So I've already signed on to the articles of impeachment. I had a constituent ask me, they said, Congresswoman, so does that mean like most people are on board? I was like, oh no, it's only 3 of us. But what I know in this job and in this world today, sometimes you've got to be able to stand for what is right, even if it means standing alone. And I will always stand up and be your voice here in Congress.
So everyone, you're up. Now I'm going.
All right, y'all. It is clear that President Trump is going to continue to lie to the American people. There have been some heartbreaking stories that, as a parent, my heart breaks for these moms who've seen their children go through these tragic events. But what I know is that a leader in this country, we have an obligation to uplift all communities. And that's what I'll continue to do as your Congresswoman. I think we've heard enough for tonight. You can continue to watch and tune in. I will right here with my crew here in the office. But y'all, the president is going to keep talking. He said he's going to go even longer than he went last year, which was very, very late and very long. But you've got families, you've got responsibilities, and you've got your life at home waiting for you. So I'm not going to hold you on this live here all night. We've been on for going on 2 hours now. But y'all, here's the truth. The most important conversations, they don't just happen in that chamber. They happen in communities just like ours. They happen in living rooms and around kitchen tables. They happen when you're in the grocery store talking to your neighbors, in your place of worship, talking to other people with you. Here's what I need you to remember. Stay engaged. Pay attention to what's said. But even more importantly, pay attention to what's done, because speeches don't change lives. Policy does, organizing does, accountability, it does. If you have questions about what you heard tonight, drop them in the comments, send them to my office, reach out. I'm here to answer them. My district office number is 404-659-0116. We want to hear from you. You can find us on social media, Instagram at Rep Nakima. You can find us on X at Rep Nakima, Facebook at Rep Nakima Williams. You can drop us an email, go to our website. Many ways to get in touch with our office. And again, the district office number is 404-659-0116. Y'all, that's what representation looks like. It looks like you being engaged, because remember, while election day is in November, election day and your engagement doesn't start and stop just on election day. Democracy is year round, and we need you to engage. Thank you for spending your time with me for the reality check. Now go hug your people, take care of yourselves, and I hope to see you in an engagement around the Fighting Fifth soon, because remember, we're all in this together, and I am honored to be your Congresswoman. Good night, y'all.
Yay! I can't believe we approved that guy.